I don't know when the thing actually picks up and goes live, but you know, I wanted to speak to something that struck me moments ago. And the fact is, it's not, and in everything that I have ever said, in every word that I have spoken to mine, they're not new words. These are not secrets of the ages. Anytime you hear me speak, it's not that I'm revealing some great, wonderful mystery that has never been uncovered. The majority of your leaders and speakers would like to promote that idea that they're so illustrious and amazing because they've been able to share these words. It's not true. Words belong to the infinite. They don't belong to the sayer, right? The words do not belong to he who utters them. They belong to the listener and what they were able to take from them, right? So I got no amazing, fantastic, wonderful words to share with you. What I can do is I can articulate a thing that we have looked at and we simply haven't put the words to, okay? So it struck me moments ago to ask the question of myself. And I mean, it's a self journey, right? So I asked the question of myself, who is a house Negro? Who, based on what it is that Malcolm described, right? Based on what it is that he described, who is a house Negro? And as I begin to kind of peel back the layers of the onion surrounding that question, I have to consider our disposition today in America, right? And I have to recognize the fact that in order for any of the plans that any of your leaders, any of your politicians, anybody that you hear speaking today relative to solutions, in order for any of those solutions to come into being or to produce fruit, requires that the underlying system is strong enough to allow it, right? It requires that the system or those who most highly benefit from that system are in place and solvent in order for those plans to come into being, right? I'm going to restate that. I'm going to restate that because I think it's a very important point. Again, as I say, I'm not revealing secrets of the universe. I'm not sharing words that are not readily available to each and every one of us. I'm not using brand new alien language, right? I'm using the same words available to us all. And I'm simply pointing at a thing that exists and asking, why are we calling this thing normal, right? So the question again is, based on the context put in place by Malcolm X when he described a house Negro and a field Negro, right? Based on the context that he put in place, who is a house Negro in our society today, right? And again, I ask that question of myself, not of you, right? I'm not judging you. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm not doing any of that. I'm asking it of myself. Yeah. Who is a house Negro, right? And so, again, when we consider all of the planning, all of the efforts today, everything that you see everybody doing and speaking about, right? When you hear your politicians, when you hear your leaders, when you listen to your journalists and your celebrities and everybody's goal, right? Open a bank, open a school, start a business, get an education, all of the goals and the plans and the HBCUs and absolutely everything that you see in this society, right? We look at all of those things, and it is not my truth, but it is the truth that in order for any one of those to succeed and produce the goal that was intended, in order for any of it to work, it means that our enemy must be solvent. It means that our enemy must be solvent. For if his system is not in place, then your having a bank won't work. Your having a school will not work. Your getting an education assumes that he is solvent every single day, providing you water, providing you food, providing you utilities, providing your sanitation services, providing your health care. It assumes he is solvent. Again, which one shall we go through, right? I can't see Facebook, so I can't see whether or not somebody is asking questions. I'm not real good at all this. You know what I'm saying? I'm in technology, but I'm in a whole different level, right? I'm in security. So I'm not real good at the live presentation. So I can't see whether or not somebody is asking a question. And maybe one day I'll get help. I don't want to get too deep into this. I'm not trying to be, you ain't never going to hear me say, don't forget to like me. Don't forget to subscribe to me. Don't forget to validate me. I don't need that shit. That shit don't do nothing for me, right? So I'm never going to be that. I will, however, ask, name someone, name an effort, name a movement, name an initiative. And when you name it, the question being asked is, can that initiative, effort, movement succeed without our enemy being solvent? Does it require that your enemy is solvent in order to succeed? And then we have to swing back around to the question, which is, who is a House Negro today? Who is a House Negro today? Who is the one that when fire catches to the master's house, he runs to put it out? Who is the one that says, what's the matter, boss? We sick? Right? Who is the one that does that? Right? Because again, if our plans, if our goals, if our dreams, if our initiatives and efforts are all predicated upon them being solvent, then what we're doing is we're spending energy maintaining their solvency and their strength over us, right? So what you might as well be doing is trying to empty the rising tide with a bucket that has a complete hole in the bottom. It's not possible, right? It's not possible for you to enrich your enemy every day and somehow devise a plan while under that construct to overcome that enemy. You see? So again, it's not a matter of, these being new words. Like I said, this has not been a foreign word. I didn't break into a different language. I didn't start speaking shirabaranda. I didn't do that, right? These ain't new words. These words are words that we speak on a daily basis. The only thing that I'm doing is I'm asking a question. that isn't necessarily at the forefront of our minds. We don't necessarily consider, right, our disposition. We don't step back and actually think it through, right? If my intent is to get enough education in order to overcome these conditions, then I must make him stronger every single day. I must work within the society. I must pay taxes. I must pay for insurance. I must pay for my utilities. I've got to pay him. I've got to make him stronger, right? In order for my plans to be able to come true. And at the same time that I'm making him stronger, his system is adapting. It's adapting. It's getting stronger. It's eroding our children. It's eroding our relationships. It's eroding our minds. It's bombarding us with frequency manipulation through their media. It's destroying us through our food and through our water the whole time that I'm working to get an education, that I might be able to best him at the end of my education, or I'm working within his political framework. And my hope is to garner enough voices and enough of us to be able to stand up and overthrow his system. What you're doing every single day is you're making him stronger. You're feeding the beast in order to somehow, some way, in some distant future, overcome the beast that you have made stronger. Think this through. Think this through. Can it work? What combination of efforts can overcome that? How many thousands of years would be required before what we are doing would actually work? How could it work? How could it work? Again, I do not place myself into the position of the all-knowing and the all-wise and powerful Oz. That is not me. That's not me. I'm looking for an answer, just like you are. Just like you are. I'm looking for an answer. So I ask myself the questions that are not on the lips of the media and the journals, the journalists and the leaders and the politicians. I ask myself the questions on the ground of myself. Who am I? Who is a house Negro here? I measure myself against the greatest of men and women and attributes that we have seen. And so I have to ask myself these questions. And when I ask myself, I simply share them with you. I simply share the questions that I'm asking of myself with you. So who is the house Negro? If everything I'm planning, if everything I'm hoping, if all of my goals and dreams and aspirations require the solvency of my enemy, how could my goal ever come to being? What does the win look like? How could I win? How could I win under that constraint? It's not possible. I'm going to flip it just real quick and push another thought thread into the ethos. My hope, I am an archer, and I've taken my arrow, and I let it fly. And my hope is that somebody, somewhere, hears it and it resonates. That's the best that I can do, right? So my next question is, if we were to consolidate the requests of 48 million Africans in America, if we were to distill all of the needs, all of the requirements, all of the requests of the Black people in America, and we were to form a consensus, we looked at each and every single question and every single need and every single possible solution, right? We look at every submission as it relates to a solution to our problems, what addresses us as a people, what can be done to make the greatest difference in our lives uniformly. And we consolidated that into a list of three things. And we took that list and handed that to the President of the United States of America. Tell me, what 3 things could the President of the United States of America do right now that would make fundamental differences that we need as a people right now? What could he mandate, right? If you asked 48 million of us, right, about the priority, what could he mandate? Could he say, no more shooting black people? And it stop? Would that stop it? Would the local police department here all suddenly say, oh, he said no more shooting black people, we're not going to do it anymore? Would that stop it? What about if they said complete equity? You can no longer discriminate against black people. Oh, wait, they already did that. They already said you can no longer discriminate against black people in finance, in housing, in education, in healthcare, in real estate, in law, in all of these various areas throughout the society. They have already said you can't discriminate against black people in these areas. But it persists. But it persists. But again, what is it that you could possibly ask them that they could do, right? The ask of white America is impossible. They can't solve that problem. The problem is that we're talking about the human equation. You have a people that for 500 years took as normal disconnection, hatred, apathy. I mean, the most atrocious behaviors and attributes in human history. They took them as normal. There was no chastisement. There was no consequence for the actions that they took to this day. So without consequence, what is the result? If your child goes out and steals a bicycle, and they paint that bicycle and nobody ever knows that that bike is stolen, and he faces no consequences as a result of his actions, what is likely in the lifetime of that child? That child is going to steal again. They didn't learn a lesson as a result of their actions and behaviors. So an action or a behavior taken over a protracted period of time without consequence creates a retardation in the people. They don't believe that cause and effect impacts them. Okay, so you have a nation that has deferred consequence associated with the actions that they have brought into being. And so you have a depleted, from a moral perspective, from a humane perspective, from the perspective of connection between it and all others in these areas. It has completely depleted itself. It left a hole where a human being used to be. But my focus is us as a people. And the things that you would ask, the things that we could consolidate in the form of 3 questions that we could turn to white America and ask, are impossible for them to do. See, Joe Biden or Donald Trump cannot set an edict that says, okay, you need to love those black folk, and it come true. No more Karens, and it come true. There is no possible way that they could create an edict that would in fact satisfy the needs that we as a people have. So the question becomes, why are you still standing in their face asking for some shit? Why? What can they give you? What can they do? I hear my people talking about reparations, and again, I'm all for it. I love that, right? What I will not do is I will not spend my energy seeking them. Why? Because it assumes that they will always be there. It assumes that they are infallible. It assumes that they will always be solvent. And I don't believe that. I believe that if you are my neighbor and you are a rapist and a murderer and an absolute abhorrent person, first of all, if I don't get you, my firm belief is that the universe will. You cannot live your whole life destroying innocent people and think that you will flourish. It doesn't work that way. So even if I don't get you, the life that you lead will be reflective of the pain that you have caused in the lives of other people. So this is just natural. This is what is going to be, right? So what I speak to is the fact that this nation has earned what is coming. I do not believe for 1 second that, and I will not bank for 1 second on the solvency of a giant that I know has to fall. I will not predicate all of my plans, my goals, my dreams, my wishes, my children and my progeny into the future on the idea that this man is infallible and I can count on him to provide everything that every single one of my children and family will need. I can count on him that all of my goals and plans and wishes will come true with his assistance. I can't do that. Can you? I can't do that. I can't believe that the best that I can possibly do is defer to another man. Is that what you believe? In your vote? In your marching and all of these actions, do you truly believe that they are infallible, that they are supreme, and that absolutely no circumstance could ever jeopardize what they built? They sought to produce a more perfect union using genocide as the vehicle in order to produce it. And you think this is okay? Is there something in your mind that makes you believe this is normal and it is a viable vehicle, necessary, evil, in order to be able to get to progress? Progress at what cost? Does the ends justify the means? Is it okay to commit genocide because you might be able to build a nice house there? Is that okay? Is it okay to breed innocent 13-year-old girls without skipping one in 300 years until that 13-year-old girl could no longer reproduce in order to create an economy? Is that okay in your mind? Is that normal? Do you truly believe that a people, any people, or a nation could do that for 300 years in order to produce their prosperity, and your reaction, being offspring, is, well, that's probably the best I can ever do. This is probably the right answer. They are right. We should defer to them. We should defer to this system that used innocent wombs as a means of producing economic prosperity for themselves. And something in our minds makes us bend to the idea that this is normal. Because you were born into it, this is the best it could be. We should go along. I mean to tell you, they began to pray to the neon god that they made. Just because it is what has always been done does not make it normal, healthy, whole, or humane. We are living in one of the sickest societies human history has ever witnessed. And our plans, again, our plans, our goals, our wishes, our dreams are all predicated on the strength of our enemy. Think that through. So when I ask the question, who is the House Negro? Wait a minute. I'm not going to answer it. I'm not going to point fingers. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through scenarios, okay? If your plan is to build a bank on the plantation, does that bank make the enemy stronger? So in order for your bank to succeed, you must pray that the fire goes out on your master's house. And if you open a school, then in order for your school to educate even one child, then your enemy's house can't be on fire. You have to put that fire out in order to be able to continue to educate those children. If your goal or your plan is to generate wealth, right? I'm not putting anybody down, I'm not. But if your goal is Forex trading or cryptocurrency, right? And if your goal is to generate wealth, the assumption must be that the system you exist in is standing. It must be solvent. So if that house should catch fire, you've got to put it out. Your goals cannot be reached if you don't put that fire out, right? HBCUs, very simple. It's in a house. If that house catches fire, they got to put the fire out for their goals or their plans to be reached. All through the society and in every single instance. Run it against that. Run it through that filter. Run it through that filter. Does it require that my enemy is strong in order for my goals to be met? And if that is true, then your goals cannot possibly be met in that way. This isn't rocket science. As I said, I'm not sharing ancient words. I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not doing that. All I'm doing is I'm asking a question. Think it through for yourself. Think it through for yourself and ask yourself, who's the House Negro?